I never thought I'd be so grateful to be a parent. For a long time, I viewed parenthood as a curse. 18 years of your life being borrowed. That's why I swore I'd never have kids. Unfortunately, life has a way of giving you exactly what you didn't ask for. And for me, that happened when I was still a child myself. I was 17 when my little Joshie was born. 8 pounds, 6 ounces, a winter baby. I don't know. I guess I was just scared at the time. Scared of the responsibility, sure. But more than anything, I was scared I didn't have what it takes. Me and his mother had only been together for 2 years before we made the same dumb mistake as every other teen parent in the country. I kept thinking about what this meant for me, what I was going to have to become in order to support this new life outside of my own. I was almost reluctant when I had to start working. Maybe reluctant isn't the right word. The word I'm looking for is probably closer to resentful. Of course, that feeling only lasted a year or two. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it followed me all the way up the corporate ladder as I went from employee to supervisor to district manager. I didn't get the pride of knowing I'd done it for myself. I hadn't made something out of myself because that's what I wanted. I did it because I needed to. I may have been resentful, but I was never the kind of person to let my baby starve. I wasn't the kind of person to abandon his mother either. Even still, she noticed how withdrawn I'd become, how she was the only one singing lullabies at night, tucking him in, kissing his forehead, comforting him. For a long time, the extent of parental bonding between me and my son was the occasional bath or diaper change. In my mind, my only job was keeping food on the table. It drove a wedge between me and his mom. During those early years, we found ourselves fighting nearly every night. She demanded a kind of presence that I just didn't believe I possessed. Of course, Joshua witnessed all of it. The screaming fits, the wall punching, the kind of things no toddler should ever see. Eventually, we didn't even know why we were still together anymore. I guess the answer was Joshie. Because despite everything I felt, there was still a part of me deep down that wanted to give my son a good life. Even if I didn't know how to show up emotionally, I could still fight to make sure he lived comfortably. When his mother died, though, it was like I became numb to absolutely everything. There was no light at the end of the tunnel anymore. No superficial hope that maybe someday we'd become a functioning family after I stopped being so pathetic. God made sure I learned my lesson in the cruelest way imaginable. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't some unexpected tragedy. We had to watch her fade away more and more every day. Watch her cheeks sink in. Watch her lose her hair. Lose her weight. We watched her take her final breath on that hospital bed before the flatline left both of us sobbing our eyes out. Joshie was only 6 years old when she passed. Too young to understand death, but old enough to know his mom wasn't there anymore. Old enough to feel the pain of knowing she wasn't coming back. And you know what I did? I made him sleep alone, in the dark, in his own bed. God, I know. I fucking know I'm a terrible person. But I was trying, okay? I'm still trying. For 6 weeks, I made him sleep alone in that room. I pretended to be asleep when he asked to sleep beside me. Sometimes I outright refused him. I was afraid of needing him. Afraid he'd need me too. I learned a lot during those 6 weeks. I was in the dark too. The amount of responsibility now resting on my shoulders was so overwhelming, it numbed me. I convinced myself I couldn't fail if I never really tried. But I was failing. I had failed harder than I'd ever failed in my entire life. And when I finally realized that, I made a vow to myself to step up, to become the man my son needed me to be. I started letting him sleep in my bed routinely, singing to him every night, rocking him in my lap until little snores escaped his throat. I took him to the park every day, bought him toys every week, watched movies with him, played with him. It felt like I was desperately trying to make up for lost time. Josh became more comfortable during this period. He talked to me more, opened up to me about things. I finally learned what he actually liked. His favorite foods, favorite superheroes. For the first time in my life, I actually felt attentive. Like more than just a paycheck and the occasional bath. He also revealed things that troubled me. Things that made me worry his mother's death had hit him harder than he was letting on. One morning we were eating cereal and watching cartoons when a dish suddenly crashed in the kitchen. I nearly jumped out of my skin, but Josh hardly even flinched. "That was just Mom, I think," he said calmly. "She comes up here sometimes." Of course, I looked at him sideways. "Is that right?" I asked. "You think that's your mom in there?" "Yeah, probably. I hear her walking around sometimes. She's super loud." My heart broke for him. The imagination of a grieving child can do miraculous things. I figured he was coping the only way he knew how. "Well, I'll have to keep an ear out. Hopefully I'll hear her too someday." Josh slowly turned toward me. "You don't already? She talks about you all the time." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "I wish I did, buddy." "What exactly does she say about me?" "It's hard to hear her sometimes. She's usually in the basement. I think she cries a lot." Silence lingered between us after that. I didn't like the specificity of it. "She's usually in the basement." It didn't sound imagined. It sounded real. I guess that's why I started listening so carefully at night, training my ears to pick up even the slightest sound while the house sat silent around me. I knew she was gone, but part of me still wanted to hear her. Some nights, I thought I actually could. Faint whispers drifting through the vents, soft crying weaving into my ears at odd hours of the night. Around the same time, Josh started acting strangely. I'd find him standing silently in front of the basement door at 3 a.m, staring blankly at it with hollow eyes. Completely still. I caught him whispering to himself too, like someone else was in the room with him. I could never make out the entire conversation, but what I heard still made my chest ache. "He's doing better. He spends time with me now. He tells me he loves me. I don't want to leave him yet." Honestly, I found it wholesome at first. It felt good believing I was redeeming myself in his eyes, like maybe I was finally doing something right. But the feeling didn't last. In the weeks that followed, Josh became withdrawn and distant. It felt like he was avoiding me. Eventually, I asked him why. "You've been pretty quiet lately. Anything you want to talk about?" He looked up from his cereal and stared at me for a long moment before motioning for me to lean closer. "Mom says I shouldn't talk to you." "Why would she say that? She knows you can tell me anything. She says you hate me. She says you don't love me because I was born." His words hit me like a freight train. I've been trying so hard to make things right. And suddenly it felt like my heart was being ripped apart. Tears welled up in his eyes as he kept talking. "She says you want to hurt me. She can feel it. She hears what you think, because you don't like saying it out loud. Through tears and a cracking voice, I tried to reassure him. Joshi, honey, no. No, I would never hurt you. Daddy was still a baby too when he had you. It's scary, buddy, but all I ever wanted was for you to grow up happy. I don't feel very happy. Then something crashed in the living room, loud enough to make Josh jump. It's okay, I told him. I'll go check it out. Just stay here for me. The second I entered the living room, I stopped dead in my tracks. Every single family photo we owned lay shattered in a neat pile in the middle of the floor. The frames looked deliberately placed. Glass glittered across the hardwood. While I stood there, frozen in shock, Josh slipped past me and disappeared into his room. She heard me, he whispered. Oh God. She heard me. It took me nearly 45 minutes to clean up the glass, and my mind raced the entire time. I couldn't stop thinking about what Josh had said. I didn't hate him. I never hated him. Trash bag in hand, I headed downstairs to throw everything out. That's where I found him, standing in front of the basement door, swaying back and forth, whispering over and over again, "Please don't make me go." The basement door slowly creaked open on its own, revealing complete darkness beyond it. Josh slowly turned toward me. She's just trying to protect me. Those were the last words he ever said to me before disappearing down the stairwell. I froze, completely rooted to the floor before instinct finally kicked in. I rushed downstairs, calling his name every few steps, but there was no response. The basement felt dead silent. I searched every inch of it, every corner, every shadow. Josh was gone, completely gone without a trace. I called the police. They searched the house themselves and found nothing. When I explained what happened, they looked at me like I was insane, like they thought I had something to do with it. I went to bed that night feeling hollow, broken all over again. I couldn't sleep. All I could do was stare at the ceiling fan while the clock beside me ticked forward. 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Then around 2:30 in the morning, I started hearing things. At first I thought I was losing my mind. But as the minutes passed, the sounds became clearer. Giggling, whispering, laughing inside the walls. And then I heard a voice I recognized instantly. My son's voice. "Dad, Mom says you can come down now."